You're listening to REI USA Podcast, your prime resource for genuine real estate growth. If you want to jumpstart your real estate career, whether in active or passive investing, this is the right show for you. Join professional home renovator Stacy as she talks to REI USA teachers and expert investors willing to share their tips and tricks to get started in investing, sharing actionable advice in every area of real estate, all while putting legality, habitability, and safety above everything else. Combine their unparalleled advice with your strong drive for success, and that incredible real estate fortune will be yours. Now, here's your host, Stacy.
Hey, Linda, how are you?
Hey, good. Man,
Good.
I learned a lot. Took
Okay.
a lot of notes there, kid.
Oh, good. Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you for coming and hanging out with us today. And she spoke last year at the last session, and that her presentation really resonates with me. I still think about your presentation to this day. This
Wow.
is something that we're definitely going to be doing, when the downturn comes, though, because I'm too cheap right now.
Well, that's well said. Yes, I would agree with that. That is for sure. So you want me to share my screen, right?
Yeah, share your screen, introduce yourself to everybody, and I'll mute myself. And let me see. Okay, yeah, just do presenter mode, and you're looking good.
All right, it's not here we go. I'm sorry. Okay, cool. Is that good?
Actually, yes, looks awesome. Perfect.
All right, great. All right, everybody. So welcome. And that really was a great presentation. Self-storage is always in the back of my mind. Never done it, but getting ready to. So, and everything she just said is applicable to lots and lots of different types of assets. So even if you're not exactly interested in that particular topic, you can apply it to anything. Use the chat line, and Christy, if there's time to, feel free to interrupt and get some questions in, but I'm going to kind of run through this and just let me know. How long do I have? Do I have 45 minutes or an hour, or what time?
You have, and I think, to noon is when the next one comes on.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, okay, great. Awesome. So today I want to share with you how to make massive profits with condos and co-ops, even if you don't know what you're doing. So, and that's the main thing. Even if you have bad credit, even if you don't want to live there, even if you don't have any experience. And in fact, this is why someone asked me to put this presentation together, because when I was a coach, I found that many of my students, their very first real estate deals ended up being a condominium, and you'll see why. So if you're brand new at this, definitely would love to have you. This is right for you. I found it to be fast, fun, easy way to make cash in real estate. And as one mentor I have says, always look for the fastest way to make cash. This is my disclaimer that anything I say is, to learn everything you can, but verify, trust, but verify. But for sure, check. Every state has its own rules and regulations, and you definitely want to check into those. So what is your situation? Are you, in fact, I can't really see the chat line, I guess. So I just thought maybe I could interact more with people, but what's your situation? Are you working full time? Are you looking to buy your own home? And as we know, they're super expensive right now. Are you brand new in this whole real estate investing world? Are you already investing in real estate? Well, really this strategy is really best for you. It's really perfect for you. And also, what is your strategy? Are you wholesaling? Are you rehabbing? Are you buying and holding? Are you buying and selling notes, which I think would be really great. And if you're like me and you don't know the difference between a hammer and a screwdriver, this strategy is really perfect for you. I'm going to show you how you can apply condos, and really condos, townhomes, any kind of shared community. This is what's going to be perfect for you. So I'm going to show you how to do all of these things using less money, less work, less experience in your spare time. And as Stacy was just sharing, I can run these being anywhere in the world, so it doesn't really matter. It's easy, fun, and fast, and especially you can get your first deal done in 30 days. And in fact, you know what? I hadn't planned to do this, but at the end, I'm going to give you my email address if you would like some quick strategies about how to market and get a deal within the first 30 days, feel free to send me an email and I'll send that to you. I'm also going to show you how to get access to my book for free. So this is my very first investing deal. So you know where I started from. I had attended a bunch of workshops all over the country. And then I came home and I said, I'm excited. I'm going to go find a piece of real estate. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to rent it. And I looked everywhere, and every place I went into was a piece of crap because it needed so much rehab. I didn't know any construction. I didn't know how to evaluate things. I didn't know contract. I didn't know much. And the biggest thing is I didn't know how to estimate repairs because there was no REIA where I was living. And man, Stacy, the organization you've put together and the whole team, Christy, the whole team is just amazing that you have access to this many teachers throughout the United States of America. It's just really amazing. So pat yourselves on the back for being here and being part of this organization. So I didn't know much. And then one of these realtors, I kind of given up, right? And on a Saturday night, this guy calls me. I think it was like 6 o'clock. I was having dinner. I was getting ready to chill out in front of the fireplace. And this realtor called me and he says, I got a deal for you. And I said, Jim, I appreciate it, but I guess this real estate thing's not really for me. I don't really know how to put it together. I don't know what I'm doing. But then he told me about a condo, which I really didn't know much about. And it was in this complex. And it was my very first real estate deal. And I want to share with you a little bit how it works so that you can see that you can do it for yourself. So this one I bought for $29K. I think we're going to see those days again. Maybe not quite that low, but they're around. I bought it with a line of credit from my home. So it was creative financing. I got a line of credit from my own home and I was able to buy it that way. It only needed carpet, paint, and some cleanup. Then I was able to rent it for $300 per month, positive cash flow for 18 months, $300 a month. So that could be a car payment. It could buy your groceries. It could be, $300 a month for 18 months. I sold it for $55,000. So let's take a look at this. I didn't use any of my own money. It was all the bank's money. I did not need any construction knowledge. I made $5,400 for positive cash flow. I made $36,000 profit on the sale. I was able to write it off for 18 months. So it was a tax write-off. And I met my cat buddy. And there he is. In fact, he's still alive. I don't know how. He's like 20 years old now, 21. But one more piece I didn't say is that when I sold it, I actually held a second mortgage for the person that bought it. So I made a little bit more interest on the sale. So I even sold it with creatively. But there's Buddy. And he jumped into our truck one day in the middle of a storm. I hope I didn't take the cat away from anybody else, but I have the cat. This is a little bit real quick about me. I was known as the Kiyosaki of Waterbury, Connecticut. I've done a lot of different things, wholesaling. Well, you can read this. I've done a lot of different types of deals. I did found the Connecticut REIA, and I've trained over 15,000 real estate entrepreneurs, coached hundreds of people who took massive action. And that's the important thing. If you listen to any of the trainers and speakers this weekend, they all took massive action to find success. And I'm really known as being able to give you the tips, the tools, the techniques that you can implement right now, regardless of where you're at right now. So I've been featured on all these different places. The one I'm most proud of is Women of Fire. It's a newspaper publication in the Northeast. They publish commercial real estate, commercial transactions, and I was awarded Women of Fire, which are women in finance, insurance, and real estate. So I was very proud of that. I have a couple books on Amazon. You can see their pictures, and I'm going to show you in just this next slide how to get it. So if you go to womenaressimplybetteratIt.com, it'll take you right to the link for the pink book, and you can get that for free this weekend, today and tomorrow, Monday. And the second book is really basic, like how to get started in real estate. And then the third one that you show is an online course that I can offer to you if you're interested. But if you go to womenaressimplybetteratIt.com, it'll take you directly to Amazon. I do have a website for making big profits with condos. I'm happy. I love to teach. I just love to teach. So any opportunity I have to help people, I'd be glad to. This is really why I do this, and this is why I'm here, is because of the people that I interact with. This is a friend of mine. She's an artist. And because of real estate, she was able to do the things she loved to do, which was to create art. In fact, I have one of her paintings in my office. She was able to she brought her artistic view to that before and after of that house. She also was a foster mom. So she took care of teenagers, which really need a lot of help, all because of real estate. And I just love her and got a chance to meet her. This is another woman, Sally. She was a school bus driver, not making a lot of money. School bus drivers don't make a lot of money. She was able to find this little house before and after. This house she found from a sign. She drove around town and found this sign. And then she found it on Craigslist. Funny story, she called the phone number, and the guy said, well, where'd you see it for sale? And she says, well, why? She says, well, my brother is advertising it this way and he wants less than what I want. So she said, well, I saw it on the first way. But anyway, even more importantly, her town was giving away homeowner grants, and she was able to get a grant to do the total renovation, including lead removal, roof, new windows, everything. And the only time she had to pay that loan back was when she sold it. So if you think that you don't have any money, there may be money available to you. There's actually money everywhere. Just like Stacy says, she's been raising money for self-storage. There is so much money out there right now. You just have to let go that you don't personally have money and get out there and just ask people for money. A little bit about me. I love to go trick-or-treating on Halloween for UNICEF. And I would go to the nice section of town so I could peek into rich people's houses and see what they look like. I was a Girl Scout. I love to build fires and go camping, still do. That's not me, by the way, but that's a reminder of them. I did go to Temple University when Philadelphia really looked like that picture on the right. And in that picture, I tell you, I was studying social work, and I had a client. I had to go into one of those homes, and I walked up the third floor, and I saw, when you walked in there, you saw water coming down the stairwell. It was freezing in there, and people were living in this kind of situation. And I thought, why doesn't somebody just organize people to get together and clean up their own neighborhood and put things together? And that was just the beginning of my, love for let's make something happen with real estate. So go Owls. Anyway, when I graduated college, soon thereafter, we had a lot of unemployment, and I ended up changing jobs every single year, I think, every 18 months. And my biggest fear still is when I retire, that I don't want to have to work for Walmart as a greeter. Not that there's anything wrong with working for Walmart as a greeter. In fact, they're paying pretty darn well these days. But I just didn't want to have to work. I wanted to, if anything, I wanted to go work at McDonald's or any of those places because I wanted to have fun and meet people. But I did not want to be unemployed. And over the years, I've coached so many people. And unfortunately, I've run into people that are homeless. And if they had just learned how to have a couple of rental properties, they would never have been homeless. I would have been homeless. I lived in a 2-family house, and my partner at the time decided to quit her job. And so there was no money coming in, or hardly anything in. And every Sunday night was spent calling all the creditors and say, I can pay you this week and I can pay you next week. Here's what kept us in the house, though, without being evicted or foreclosed on, was that we had a tenant, and the tenant's rent that came in was enough to pay for the mortgage. So if you just have 1, 2, 3, 4 tenants, it doesn't take a lot. You will never be homeless again. And so if anything, that's my soapbox to you. You can do this. And I really hope that you take advantage and take action. So this light bulb went off and said, if you have tenants and you have apartments, then you have residual income. Because I used to sell insurance, the same thing. I sold a policy. As long as people kept paying on that policy, I kept making money. So you do the work once and you keep on making money. In fact, where I have properties up in Connecticut, there was 2.5 feet of snow over this weekend. I'm down here in Atlanta enjoying no snow. But the units are getting taken care of, the tenants are getting taken care of, and the money ends up in the bank. This was a friend of mine that came to us, and he was working class, not making a whole lot of money. He was able to buy one of these condos at the time for only $8,000. $8,000. He didn't have any money. So I got a line of credit from my credit card. So if you have good credit, look at credit cards. You do have probably lines of credit that, cash advances for 0%. maybe 2 or 3 points up front, and that's it. You have a year to 18 months to pay it off. Anyway, we were able to lend him the money to buy it. We were able to lend him some money to fix it up. He did that, and within a couple of years, he sold it, and he used the money. He paid us back at 12%, and then he went and bought a 2-family house. And that's the American dream right there. Now, I know these prices seem really cheap compared to what you can do right now, but I'm going to tell you a story in a few minutes about why that's not necessarily so. So let's talk about what's so great about condos. Oh, by the way, since this is the Badass Women Summit, I do want to let you know my books are Women Are Simply Better, and men read them too, by the way, and because there are certain skills that we have as women, I believe, that can really help us be successful in this business. We're loud, we're proud. Let's share about it. And my company is Ordinary to Extraordinary Publishing, because I believe that every ordinary person is really extraordinary. So let's take a look and see what's the trend here. Who is living in condos? We got baby boomers because we're ready to retire or are retired. We've got Generation X, 38 to 53-year-olds. Millennials, a lot of millennials are living in condos, and post-millennials. But if you look at this, isn't this crazy? We always thought that the baby boomers was the largest generation, but look how big these generations are. Just really, really, this is huge. And a lot of these people, they're not ready to settle down. They may not have children yet. They want to be able to travel a lot. Their parents want to be able to follow them around the country. A lot of these people are just moving into condominiums. This is unlike self-storage, where there's only 50,000 self-storage units, is 50,000 facilities in the country, which was surprising to me. We have 338,000 community associations, and it's a $1.76 billion value here. Now, we also have community association management companies. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that in a minute, about why that's so important. But there's 7,000 to 8,000 of those companies that help the associations, the homeowners associations, manage themselves. And so that's what's going on there. So this is a big, big business. Condos are everywhere. I just did this today. I went into Atlanta. There are 1,049 condos and townhomes, 1,049 for sale. And they started off, well, one of them I saw was only $200,000 to live in Atlanta. It's pretty cool. They're everywhere. Primarily people are looking for them near hospitals, near universities and schools. They're close to transportation. And right now, because there's so much building going on everywhere, just about anywhere, you're going to see these things. Now, this is what I like about condos, especially if you want to buy and hold, is I don't have to mow the lawn. I did not have to shovel any snow at all. I don't have the capital expenses. I don't have to worry about the roof and the windows, those kinds of things that are expensive. And then they're much easier to rehab. They're easy to rent because they do feel like it's your own home as opposed to an apartment, especially if you get a townhome style. But they are easy to rent, and you're going to get a better quality tenant, more choice of tenant, because it does feel like it's your own space in your own home. They are easier to buy because they're a lower price. And many times, depending on how the market shifts, a lot of times you can get owner financing, because when people want to sell, they want to sell, and they may not be able to sell at a top dollar. You can negotiate with owner financing on them. And I'll share an example of that lately. And you can kind of sort of buy them sight unseen. Now, I don't always recommend that, but once you know the condo complex, you pretty much know what the design of them are, how well they're taken care of, what their rules and regulations are. So you don't have to spend so much time doing a walkthrough. So you can buy them anywhere that you want to. And they are definitely less expensive than a single family home, for sure. The other thing is there's less competition. Hardly anybody knows what to do with them, especially if you're a wholesaler. A lot of wholesalers don't know what to do with these. I'm going to share an example about that. They're very easy to appraise. I'll tell you about that too. You can set it and forget it. You're done with them. So the other thing that's really great about condos and co-ops is the amenities. This is where I live, in this complex, and we have our own lake. We have access to 3 swimming pools and 4 or 5 tennis courts. This is a 2.5 mile loop around the lake that I get to enjoy with all kinds of nature. I can do this anywhere I want to. So if I like to go skiing, I can buy something up there. If I want to go, if I want to go to the beach, I could buy one down there. So this is a friend of mine, Nicole. There really, as a landlord, she found out that she even forgot that she owned this one because the rent came in every month. And when the roof leaked, she called the HOA, the homeowners association, and they fixed it. So much simpler than her multifamily houses that she owned. This was one that I spoke at a REIA in Long Island, and this woman had said that she owned a unit in Colorado. And when she moved from Colorado to Long Island, she kept it, rented it out to people who love to ski. By the way, depending on the rules for the complex, you could use these for short-term rentals, whether it's like daily or weekly, or maybe it's for 3 months at a time. You do definitely check with the condo association. But a friend of mine, she just bought one near Myrtle Beach, and there's only 5 units in this little, it's kind of like a house with condos, a 5-unit apartment building, but they turn it into condominiums. And she's renting them out as Airbnb, and there was no problem with that. You do have to know this, though. There are good complexes and not such great complexes. You do have to deal with the board members. So it is a people business. You do have HOA fees, whether you want to or not. So whether you, like when you have your own multifamily house or any other business, you can budget for reserves or not that month, depending if you have money. With an HOA, you have to pay those fees every month, but you want to because that pays for the maintenance of the entire community. Sometimes financing can be trickier, but it's gotten easier in the last few years, especially since 2019. You may not be able to rent them out, and you may or may not be allowed to have pets. So you need to find out about that. So, so now's the time to take some notes, and just let me know, Christy, if there's any questions that I should know about, okay? And so step 1, this is where you can find a unit. And we've been talking about that over the weekend. Here, Meriden, Connecticut had 135 condos for sale. I showed you Atlanta with over 1,000. So you could go on the MLS. You can use postcards and letters. We heard from a really great list broker yesterday. You can do phone calls and word of mouth. And probably word of mouth is one of the most effective, especially if you like to rehab these, because once you get into a condo community, you can rehab it, and then people will start to get to know you, and then they'll tell you about other units in that same community. I do like postcards a lot because you can get it out there right away. And they'll throw it in the trash maybe, but they won't because they see the message, right? There are going to be more foreclosures coming up. You might want to be careful about the foreclosure because I made that mistake. I sent out letters to people in pre-foreclosure, and it said, stop foreclosure. And this woman called me up. She was, how dare you? Now my postal carrier knows that I'm in foreclosure. How dare you do that? So that's a good point. So anyway, first you're going to find the condo. And again, if you send an email to my email, I'll send you a quick presentation about some marketing strategies that I use. Step 2, do due diligence of the community. You want to ask a lot of questions. So this is doing due diligence of the community. As investors, we're usually doing the due diligence on the property itself, but first we need to start with the community. So these are some questions that you want to find out. You may want to take a screenshot of this. You want to know how many units there are. I think if you want to have something that's large enough to have professional community management, and personalities are not so important, right? What are the condo fees? Are they comparable to what other people are charging? What do the fees cover? How is it managed? Is it all of them are managed by a homeowners association of your neighbors, but is it professionally managed so that you have some backup for that? And by the way, that's become a really important question for me. If it's not managed by professionals, then I'm not too interested in buying there. Is it approved by FHA or VA? If it is, it's easier to get FHA financed people to move in. If they're not, it's not as it's not as difficult as it used to be, but that could be an opportunity for more creative financing. Very important question, underline this one. What's the percentage of owner occupied? You want to have at least 50% of the units owner occupied. It will make the community a whole lot nicer and more stable and easier to finance. Are you allowed to have pets? Some of them allow 1 cat, 1 dog. but they don't allow 2 dogs. So these are things you want to find out. Also, very important question, what are the reserves? And as you get more into this, you can find out how much is set aside for reserves from the community, because it's going to come in. Then you want to do due diligence of the unit, just like any other asset that you're buying. And you want to estimate the repairs. What do you have to fix? What can you leave behind that you don't have to do? What are the comps? All right, so those are pretty typical of any other type of unit. Now, really important to avoid mistakes. So this is a recent example that came up. Wholesaler sent me this. By the way, if you're a wholesaler, hardly anybody wholesales condos for some reason. They're afraid of them. They don't know what to do with them. If you just remember that as soon as you put it under contract, as soon as you own it, you have to pay those condo fees each and every month. So you do need to know that. Anyway, I got excited because he sent me this one. He says, look, this one is only $89,000. The rent is going to be $1,131, and the after repair was $100,000. So anything that cheap in Atlanta area got my attention. And anything with that high of a rental rate also got my attention. The after repair value was not as high as I would want for a wholesale price, but if I was just going to buy it and rent it, the numbers would work, right? So that was all wonderful, right? And it looks very nice. However, I did my due diligence. So when I found out so then I did my due diligence of the community and found out, no, they do not allow rentals. They would allow me to go in, fix it up and sell it, but the numbers definitely don't work at 89,000. So that was a huge thing. I went back and looked at, this is a hint, by the way. I went back and looked at all the old advertisements for this unit or this complex, and also any rental ads for this complex. And that's where I discovered that maybe I wouldn't be allowed to rent there. And so then I had to talk to the association to find that out. So and then I negotiated, and I think I knocked off like $19,000 off of this, $19,000 discount. And then I found out he was telling me that, oh, it's worth 110, 120, no problem. Well, no, it's worth about 96,000. So you have to do your due diligence so that you don't get stuck with something you don't want. That's okay, because once you have the training and the education, you can do it. The next thing, step 3, is, so that was due diligence. Step 3 is, what's the best exit strategy? So do you want to wholesale this? Are you going to buy, fix, and sell it? Are you going to buy, fix, and hold it? Or are you going to move in? So that's this is a luxury unit that we did. We did a bunch of them in this complex. And this was for 55 and older. This is for people that are making quite a bit of money. A lot of them using this as a second home from Florida. So as you can tell, there's a whole detail. Like we spent probably about 100 grand on renovating this one, and not for the faint of heart, but it turned out well, and we made a lot of money on it. So you can do it that way too. Step 4 is, where's the money? Which, Stacy was talking about raising money to buy, 250,000, $1 million, whatever, to do that. So number 1 is you can get mortgages these days. The FHA came out with rules in 2019 that makes it a little easier, that says even if the whole complex is not approved for FHA, the unit itself could be. And a lot of these loans are Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. You can get owner financing. So if the person really wants to move, a lot of times you can just talk to them about holding the mortgage for you. You could get private money. That's pretty easy to do. Or you could get hard money. Hard money is a lot more expensive, and you only want to use it for a short period of time. But the good news is, depending on the amount of work, you could get in and out in a month. So, and the step 5 is my favorite. Spend your newfound cash, right? What are you going to spend your money on? Always treat yourself to something, but put most of the money back into your business until you're able to build your business. But do something to celebrate. All right. You may want to take a screenshot of this. What's a condominium? So a condominium is strictly a legal definition, because, in more detailed trainings that I have, you'll see that many buildings look like, they all look alike. But the difference between an apartment building and a condo is that it's a form of ownership created by state statutes and it establishes co-ownership in community property. As the owner, I own the air rights of my unit, but I may not necessarily hold title to the land underneath. So I don't own any land here except by percentage of the entire space. I own everything from the wall to wall and ceiling to floor within the unit. That means I can do whatever I want within it and whatever permits, construction laws allow, but I can paint it any color I want to, for example, as opposed to a co-op where co-ops are, you are a tenant inside of that, and co-ops can dictate what you're allowed to do. I own a percentage of all the common areas based on the percent ownership within the community. So I have a 2-bedroom here. I own less than somebody who has a 3-bedroom, right? It's all dictated in the condo documents. And so you want to become familiar with the condo documents for that community before you buy it. You want to know what the common areas are. Again, if you want to take a screenshot, you can. So, and this is pretty, whatever you think a common area would be, it's a common area. The only difference is limited common elements. And what this means is, yes, the common element belongs to the association. However, I'm the only one who has access to it. So for example, I have a back open porch and I have a screened in front porch. The association paid for painting and for power washing. However, they're responsible for the contract to negotiate all the power washing and all of the painting of the porches. I'm responsible for taking down the screening and putting the screening back in. And I was assessed $300 for the individual paint of the front porch because I'm the only one who has access to it. Okay, so they made the contract for the entire community, and I had a small assessment to take care of that. So you just want to know what that is for yourself, so you know what you're talking about. Now, most important is the homeowner association, and this can make or break your community. If you have an effective homeowner association, everybody gets along nice, the property is taken care of, and you can live there in peace. If they're fighting with each other, that could be an issue. Biggest issue is assessing the right amount for your homeowner fees every single month, because if you don't get charged enough, you won't be able to maintain the property. And how do I know that? Because I've owned in both types. The association is responsible for management and maintenance. However, some places have what they call a community association management, and that's a professional property management association, and they support your homeowners association. So, for example, I just talked to you about doing a contract to paint all the front porches. The homeowners association was the only one that was allowed to write the check. They were the only ones to approve the contract, but the community association management is the one that puts out the bids, because this is what they do 40 hours a week. So when you have a community association management, I feel like it's a much stronger, effective community. One of my students owns 2 units in a complex, and when they brought in new management, everything went a lot better. So,
Hey, Linda,
yes, go ahead.
there was Sheila asked what was step 3. I don't know if that was on a slide that you had.
Let me see. Good question. Let me see. Let me go back. Oh, step 3, figuring out what your best exit strategy is. Step 3 is best exit strategy. And by the way, I always recommend having 2 exit strategies. So if you can both rent it out and sell it, that's going to be even better. If you can wholesale it and sell it. So if you can have 2 strategies, and there's a lot that goes into deciding what the best one is for you. And most of the teachers here are transaction engineers, so they know how to do multiple strategies. And so that's the place that you want to be in, so you can make money with any lead that comes through. Any other questions?
Nope, that's all for now.
Cool. Okay. So let me get into some case studies to give you an idea about this. This is a seller finance deal that I did. This is a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath condo. By the way, when that realtor friend of mine called me up on a Saturday night, this is where he took me to. But at the time, I don't know, I passed on it. Who knows why? Anyway, but years later, the whole community had gotten cleaned up, and it was a really nice place. So it's 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. It's a rental bread and butter area. And the seller had two big problems. One is he had a tenant who was not paying anything, happened to be his ex-girlfriend, and he wanted to get married. And his fiance says, you better sell this thing or we're not getting married. So I met him. I didn't want to use my credit for a small loan. So we offered to take over payments. Plus I paid him a little bit more for the first year on top of that. So he left his mortgage in place. I made payments every single month. And we did that for a couple of years until I bought that, until I paid off that loan. During that process, everything was done by email and phone calls because he lived halfway across the country. So I had to build a lot of trust over the phone. I actually helped him evict the tenant and hired the sheriff. I didn't pay for the attorney. I did advise him, which gave him a couple of attorneys. I advised him through the whole process. I helped him evict the tenant because he kept feeling bad for her. The nice thing was it already had a new kitchen and flooring. It already put all this money into it. I thought it would rent for about $1,000. So these are the numbers. I bought it for $46K, which was almost market price at the time. I think it might have been worth around $52,000. Again, if you're buying and holding, you're looking at cash flow. No money out of my pocket. It cost $2,000 to do some minor repairs, and I mean minor. I was able to rent it within 2 weeks for $1,250, so $250 more than I thought. And plus she pays the water bill. So really I rented it for $1,275. The same tenant has been there ever since, and she plans to be there for another 6 years until one of her youngest graduates high school. So this was definitely a win-win-win on this whole situation. I hardly ever have to do it. It started off as cash flow being $550 a month. By the way, the condo fees on this are like just over $200, $212. It's been very, very, very consistent. It's a very well run complex. And the other hand for me is that it does not have a swimming pool. Now, I know we're in a lot of people are in the South where you have to have a swimming pool, but if you can avoid that, it's just a big expense and it's a big liability for insurance. So you can save a lot of money and keep your condo fees lower if you don't have to do it. So that's why I do that. Why we love wholesaling. If you don't know what wholesaling is, it means putting something under contract for one price, assigning that contract to somebody else and making money in between. In this case, I met a wholesaler and she told me about this story. The owner here was an accidental landlord. In other words, he used to live there. He rented it to a friend. Friend moved out. A new tenant came in, didn't pay rent, destroyed the unit, totally upset. Now it was vacant and he definitely wanted out. So she was able to put it under contract for $45,000. And then what she did was unique. She went and found cash buyers for the people that have bought for cash in this particular community, which has about 100 units, and communities all in the neighboring area. So when you're buying in a particular complex, it saves a lot of money on your marketing because you're only looking for certain addresses. So she was able to do that. She was able to assign the contract to somebody for $55,000. So she made 10 grand. She gave 3 grand to the realtor who brought her the buyer, and then she kept the rest of it. No money out of her pocket. So rehabbing. So this is where I found that a lot of people that really have the HGTV bug, they really want to buy, fix, and sell. They want to make it look beautiful. Many people find that I found their first rehab deal was a condo because you could do it so quickly. So these are students of mine that I gave them 2 weeks to finish this. They put it under contract. They bought it. A small unit, two bedrooms. It has a garage underneath. They renovated it in 2 weeks. They marketed it for 2 weeks and they sold it to a cash buyer and they made 10 grand. Not bad for 6 weeks of work, right? So, and I like that they have a calendar, so you're very organized and you stay close to your scope of work. These are some before and after pictures. I'm showing you this because you don't have to spend a lot of money on these. Basically in the bathroom, they put in a new light. They added a mirror. They added to make the bathroom look bigger. They did some niceties in there to make it look pretty. So that's all they had to do there. And then this is a kitchen before and after, really teeny tiny kitchen. It was not an eat-in kitchen. They only had to, they put some cabinet drawers in there. They had to fix some of the electrical to bring it up to code. And, but they left the white appliances because white in that small space keeps it wide and open. That's all they had to do there. The main living area, it just had, they had to replace the carpet because it stank. They had to fix the walls and make that look nice. So you see the before and after. They used a lot of really simple lighting. And by the way, I think this furniture came from a rental place, Aaron's Rental, which they have everywhere. They have a program for staging. So you can rent these out to stage your units. I'm a big believer in staging. I just think it sells more. It helps people see the use of the space. I know a lot of people disagree with me. Even in a hot market, I think it's really important. For this one, it was important because, again, the kitchen was not you can't sit inside the kitchen. So you want to show the space of where people would eat and enjoy life. So there's that one. This is a luxury rehab that we did, I told you about. So on the left-hand side, you see a living room and a galley kitchen. They were back to back. We tore down the wall this one here that separated the living room from the kitchen. We tore all that out. We had to have support beams in there and just made the building look gorgeous like that. And we also, this is kind of a trick that we had to make sure there was enough room to have the dining table here and be able to have the chairs move in and out and still have this beautiful island there. So there's a lot of things that we did on that one. All right, so you can use a lot of alternate financing that I wanted to tell you about. This was a woman who bought 3 condos. She found these on Craigslist, by the way. And she was in class with me and all of a sudden she went, Eureka, I found this property. So it was 3 condos. Lots of people knew about this one. The owner hadn't paid property taxes and hadn't paid condo fees in 3 years. They were fully rented. And she was able, through a lot of training and negotiation, want to get trained in negotiation on this. She was able to negotiate with the HOA and with the city to get into these units and pay them back over time, which sounds impossible, but somehow they made it happen. So for the first 3 years, she really didn't make any money, but she did get the depreciation on these because they are real property. So you can depreciate real property over 27.5 years. She paid them off in 3 years and now it's a cash cow. She didn't have to do any work at all. As the tenants moved out, she might put new paint, new carpet, but that was it. And again, this is 55 and older complex. Again, this was her first deal. She met her first business partner through REI. They bought it as a bank-owned property, which there will be a lot more coming up. So just keep your eyes and ears out for them. She was able to buy it for $20,000 less than the first offer they put in. The bank should have accepted their first offer. They were able to sell it in 3 weeks, but then the buyer couldn't come up with the money or something, so they sold it a second time for $20,000 more than the first offer they got. But anyway, the point is she was able to buy this. She used hard money to buy this thing. This also was their first deal. It was 2 friends and they bought it. They used her IRA to buy it. They were not allowed, this is something that you need to know when you're rehabbing. They were not allowed to remove the windows. So they took the glass out and put new glass in. They were not allowed to change the door color. Can't remember if they were not allowed any pets at all or just 1 pet or something like that. But what they did do is, this is the lower level of it, and they added a half a bath. So they did the comps on that community and found out units that sold had 1.5 baths sold for at least 20,000 more than the ones that didn't. So they took this ugly lower space downstairs right next to the garage and they transformed it into a half bath. And then they also had a washer and dryer down there also. And so they did that. And it was on the lower level, so they had to get a special kind of pump to pump it up to meet the sewer, all that. They did it with the city. This gentleman, this was his first flip, and he bought this at an auction. I don't normally recommend that you buy things at auctions unless you're able to walk through it with somebody who knows what they're doing. He bought this one, and when he walked in, through a foreclosure auction. When he got in there, he calls me up. I was 3,000 miles away. He says, "We got a problem." I said, "What is that?" He says, "There's this big split in the basement of the cement. Big problem." So, but it wasn't a big problem. So this one he bought with private money, and we rehabbed it on a credit card. We went to the condo association. They were well aware that there was settling issues with many of these units. And so they fixed it to their cost for $23,000. The challenge was that it did delay our ability to sell it, but it did sell in 10 days for top dollar as soon as he did it. The right-hand side shows brand new stainless steel appliances. He painted the cabinets to make it a nice bright white. Did a couple of other things, and that was it. Condos are really easy to comp, so that's good news and bad news. So if you're trying to sell it, it's good news because then you're going to know what you can sell it for. The bad news is you cannot just jack up the price just because you feel like it, because they can so easy to compare. You're going to be looking at when appraisers have to use at least one comp within that same complex. Each complex has different model names. So I think I live in an oak style, for example. They have different styles. And so you want to know what that style is. And those are defined in the condo docs when the property was built. And because, for example, in the luxury complex that we were in, there were two models, very similar, but there were different models. And one was a lot more popular than the other one. And so you need to know that when you go in there so that you don't so that you don't overprice things, right? And so I want to let you know that. So this is another first deal. This woman had, I don't know, spent 50 grand on coaching program, never got started. And then she came to us and we started working with us, and she bought this first condo, and she bought it with her IRA. She works full time. So if you're working full time, condos are great because you don't have to shovel the snow, remember? She works full time. She didn't know anything about construction, just like me. And all she had to do here was put new carpeting, new linoleum, new paint. It rented for $1,025, and then she bought a second one in the same community. And that's when we found out that they switched condos, the cams for that community, and a lot of the nitpicky things were getting better and better for that community. Now she owns 4 condos and is on her way to financial freedom. So again, just want to remind you that if you go to, I think it's womenaresimplybetteratit.com, that will take you to my Amazon link so you can get a free copy of the pink book, Why Women Are Simply Better at Real Estate Investing. The second book, the purple book, if you're a Kindle Unlimited person, you can get it for free, or you can invest in a few bucks in that book, and it covers A to Z how to invest in real estate. Please give me 5-star reviews. That's all I ask for, because the more 5-star reviews I have on the books, the better it is for me to reach as many people as possible. And if you send me oepublished@gmail.com, if you send me that and just say you want, I do have a short little presentation on how to find and mark anything like how to find your next deal in the next 30 days without spending any money. So if you send that to you, I can send that back to you. And that is it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of REI USA. Let these golden pieces of advice clear your path towards thriving real estate success and start making those amazing financial opportunities work for you. If you liked this episode and want to get more of these valuable secrets, be sure to subscribe to the show at www.rei-usa.com. Leave a rating too and share with your friends. Until next time.